All right, great to have you both here because we were talking in the pre-briefing, and I said we've heard a lot of different aspects to this entire journey, but one which we still haven't fully touched on is really how to adapt growing skill sets with the employability needs of the future. Let me start off with really what those needs are. What are the kind of skill sets that we're cultivating right now? Let me come to you on that, Mr. Shastri, to get a sense of really how fast things are moving.
Yes, I'm sure you'll come to me for the first because we're expecting this to happen. Uh, After listening to an author, then to a political leader who's at the power to set a strategy and policy for the country, and listening to two panels, it's very very difficult to cover up all those points they've already covered. They talked about skills, they talked about jobs, they talked about careers. In fact, everything is covered. Only thing that is left out for me to be little different is to tell that everybody touched upon certain things which you must have heard. These are the basics. Suppose you look at particularly look at the skills or a job. How do, as an educator sitting on the other side of the table, how do I prepare my students in my campus for this type of a happening that's going to happen in the industry? It's very, 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 very straightforward, simple. Stick to the basics. That's what we can do. We may talk about a fast changing, ever dynamic world, but when I'm preparing workforce for this country, which has so many verticals and so many horizontals and so many domains, how do I generate that workforce that can take up those challenges and work further? For that reason, you need a framework. So usually we follow a framework when we design a curriculum or something. That's something like a Bloom's taxonomy, they call it, like remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. That's where we club this. You look at knowledge or you look at skill. Both the sides, a continuous, a particular framework is put in place so that we meet the generic need of the individual first. You ask these panels who address the power packed panels like Prabir sir, Rajanji, Priyanka, and Sailin. You ask them what is that they're looking for when they're recruiting their leaders. These are the risk taking appetite, the culture, the ethics. These are all very, very common ground now that people are recruited for. Things that come in the industry today, I'm an industry, I'm working on a certain technology. It is very much possible that tomorrow this technology become outdated. So I may need to go into a different, adopt a different thing. As a management, I need to adapt. Then I need to ensure that my workforce is also geared up for that. That is the investment already that industry does, and there is a forum for it and there are things for it. But at the university level, at the college level, at the school level, what we need to do is we need to inculcate those basics. Those building blocks are to be put in place so that they take up. So what today you talk about our minister, he said that this semiconductor business, how it's going to shape up, how India is going to gear up for this. So if you look at that, if you look at SRM, I think we have already have something called a Fab Lab inside our university, and we have two of our directors sitting here from an incubation cell. So they have been working with startups which are in the area of drones. And there's one more, recently, one more core technology. They work on motors. Rizal, one startup, they got a funding of 200 crores from Bharat Forge for doing something in the motor space, the motor space. So there are already forums, platforms, ecosystems already built up in the university to take up this challenge of putting up a professional who is ready with all the basics. You talk of culture, you talk of anything. So we have student clubs, the peer learning is allowed there so that they go to industry, they respect the others who are working in the same task. So what I wanted to tell you very clearly is that the basic framework is what we should stick to. It is these industry forums that they should come in, and if required, they should intervene in a particular times of the curriculum and ensure that that knowledge is given to them so that it will be helpful to those students who want to pursue that as their career, getting into those jobs. We to look at our curriculum today, we have something called open electives, professional electives, core electives. which an industry can easily come and take it up with us, and then pursue, give that knowledge to the student required, that skill to the student required as a master class, as a center of excellence. It is possible. I'll tell you one more example. In the country, first time in SRM, we have come up with a tripartite agreement between us, Apple, and Infosys. Apple is a technology owner, Infosys is a consumer, we are the workforce providers. It's a beautiful agreement where the engineering students from the 5th semester onwards are taken through a journey along with whatever they are pursuing as an engineering course. They may be electrical engineer, electronics engineer, mechanical engineer. At the end of that, that pilot batch, we started with around 650 students, ended up with 150 in one portion, and then a third step, 50 of them have developed 20 prototypes. And the journey was made so excellent and exciting for them that out of these 20 apps, most of them are for sustainable development goals. They address an issue in sustainable development. So what we are trying to build in there is using technology, providing to the consumers of the technology, but we are actually developing a workforce which is disciplined enough to understand the requirement and work responsibly, which is useful for the society. This is where I think as educational institutions we should do. And today I tell you, if you talk about a revolution in semiconductors or anything, SRM has courses, SRM has programs, and SRM has a bandwidth also. The multidisciplinary approach that is required in a particular individual is also there because we have all the courses in the world except veterinary sciences. So a student, when he gets into the campus of SRM, he has the leverage to go into any department and talk to any professor and get those skills also, because we have choice-based credit systems. Many of us are having this. And this is already, we have geared up to a certain extent now, and COVID has helped us to push that lever also by giving some courses can be online, offline. But what we found is peer learning is more important, and our campuses in SRM are, the first thing that happens is extensive peer learning. So this is the way we model our curriculum so that the knowledge and skills required for a particular industry can be taken care. And I want to tell you one more point. The regular one, thinking that, educate, work, and then retire is no more going to be there in anybody. We will have education, working, retirement multiple times in our career. So the first thing is not that you teach the skill of learning, teach the skill of unlearning also, and teach the skill of relearning also. This is what happens inside a campus with various activities and various courses they pursue. This is what I would love to talk about.
I love that. Learn and unlearn constantly. And I think that's what Dr. Pramath also was saying earlier today. Let me come to you, Vinay, and understand, how this really matches with what you're looking for as an employer, as a key employer. What are some of the skills that you are now looking out for in new graduates, and where do you feel the gap still remains?
Thank you. I think most of the points have been already covered in this discussion. Again, I am not left with much to discuss. But certainly, it's all about going to the basics. I think what has changed. I would not like to repeat. What has already been discussed about ethics, about value systems that we look for from young graduates during our campuses. But at the same time, I think what the industry is looking at is that turnover time from them being a fresher to an actual professional who delivers for the organization, that has to reduce. And we need to look at closing those gaps between the industry and the institutions, that how those gaps can be closed. And I think a lot of it goes to the corporates also in terms of a corporate social responsibility. While we have now laws where the profit sharing has to happen, I think time has come where we need to actually institutionalize this aspect also in terms of time, the kind of quality time that the corporates spend in institutions to develop young professionals, so that this gap between the industry and the academics, reduces. So I think since the basics remain, it's all about the speed. So I think we can use a lot of technologies for to close these gaps, and within the organizations, AI can play a very important role. Maybe individuals or leaders cannot spend that much time, and technology can take that place in a big way. It's something like we have in the Bhagavad Gita, like when the Krishna was one, Arjuna was one, then there was somebody called like Eklavya, who imagined that, Guru Dron in the form of an idol, and he learned from that. Maybe, AI can play that role for us, and where the young students or the young professionals, they have that passion to learn from using this kind of a technology. So what we as look for is basically the
I think the
attitude.
students are more worried about being replaced by that technology right now.
No, it's not about using it to your advantage. See, the world, as far as work is concerned, the forms of work would change, the roles may change, but as I said, the universe, the basics remain the same. So it's all about the forms of work getting changed and you adapting, and how fast you adapt to those changes. And I think that's what we refer as employability. If we look at India today, we are still far behind in terms of skilling people, with percentages of around 4.5 to 5% formal, education as far as skilling is concerned. And whereas other countries where we have, 60% or maybe 50% in the US, where formal skilling happens, right? So there's a huge scope in India, but I think the unorganized sector is much faster in terms of adaptions. That may be more because of the positive pressure of the changing technology that makes the younger generation to adapt to those skills and remain employable. So if it is formalized and if we use better technologies, I think certainly things are going to be better.
You both talked about the desire to learn, keeping up, pace, agility. Do you find resistance, in young graduates in kind of adapting to the pace that's going to be essential now going forward?
Well, I don't think there is a resistance. It's more to do with, if you look at upcoming generations, even a small baby is used to a mobile. In fact, mobile has replaced all the toys today. Okay, a young mother would prefer to engage a baby with a mobile phone, rather than any. So technology is not new to the generation. So it's all about giving them the right orientation and the direction, as to which technology fits in most for the skill set you're trying to, and the kind of investment that the organization needs to do on people. It's not about the resistance about the youth.
Okay, so let me come back to you on that, Mr. Sastry, for a closing comment. How do we align the youth on the fact that this is going to be imperative and learning today means something new altogether?
See, it's an aspirational class altogether out there. When I stand in this career, I've completed 2 decades of being in training and placement. It's always driven by numbers, and it's always driven by quality of placement. So the quantity and quality both are to be achieved on campuses when we go there. So when we are addressing them, the first and foremost thing is, how do I normalize the aspirations on the campus for the students? If I'm able to normalize the aspirations and try to tell them what is the difference between a career and what is a job. And there are, when somebody comes and puts up a pre-placement talk, like Radico comes and they put a pre-placement talk, they explain them where they start and how they move on. There are career tracks that are available there. These are organizational directed career tracks. What we need to tell these youngsters inside the universities is how to do that protean careers, where they take charge of their own career. So when you put into that, then the things will be different for the student. So there should be a huge effort inside the campus to ensure that we reach out to these aspirational class with all these concepts first, and then put them to the learning with case studies and approaches. Like I tell you, once there was we have attended something called a Mission 10X, which was a huge initiative by Wipro, where they tried to build in that educators, the academicians that took as an input and tried to give them how the teaching and learning can happen in a better way. I was in the airport with a few vice chancellors, and one of those vice chancellors picked up one newspaper and said, "Look at this story here. The kids in India were told already about a case study approach in terms of the Panchatantra or Jataka Kathas or the Bikram Beta. But we somehow disconnect the kid after some time, and then when he goes to Harvard, he finds that that is the pedagogy. So how do we replace this entire system to ensure that this aspirational class is learning all those things? Somewhere we need to get, but somebody was talking today about Chanakya in the morning, the author. And how is he able to quote from there with the Western authors and things, which has happened in a later part. So let's try to understand how this ethos of this country is built, how the education should be looked at differently, so that we address this problem.
All right. Thank you both for making some very insightful comments, despite the fact that you thought everything was covered. It's a lovely conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for making it so simple for us.